She was just a little girl with a dream to live, but life had dealt her a cruel hand. Diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, she needed expensive chemotherapy, and her family was out of options. With nothing but hope and a paintbrush, she set up a small stand on the sidewalk, selling her artwork to strangers. Every brushstroke was a silent plea, every painting a desperate attempt to buy herself more time. People passed by, some offering a smile, others avoiding eye contact. Until one day, a young man stopped. He looked at her paintings, then at her frail hands. What he did next left everyone around speechless. Who was he? And how did his unexpected act of kindness change everything? Emma was only 12, but she had already faced more battles than most people do in a lifetime. Diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, she knew her days were numbered if she didn't receive the costly treatment she desperately needed. Her parents had done everything they could, sold their car, maxed out their savings, even launched a fundraiser, but the medical bills kept piling up. But Emma wasn't the type to give up. If her parents couldn't afford her treatment, she would find a way for herself. She had one gift: art. Ever since she could hold a pencil, she loved sketching and painting. So she set up a small stand on a busy city street, hoping to sell her artwork to strangers. With each painting she sold, she inched closer to affording another round of chemo. People stopped and admired her work, some buying out of pity, others truly appreciating her talent. But no one could have predicted what happened next. As she sat on the sidewalk, painting another hopeful masterpiece, a figure stepped out of a sleek black car. It was someone she never expected to see: Barron Trump. And his next move would leave everyone speechless. Emma had always found comfort in colors. While other kids played outside, she spent hours with her sketch pad, bringing her imagination to life. Drawing was her escape, her way of silencing the fear that loomed over her since the diagnosis. But now art was more than just an escape. It was her only hope. The hospital bills kept rising, and despite her parents' best efforts, they were drowning in debt. They had insurance, but it barely covered a fraction of her treatments. Her father had taken extra shifts at work, and her mother spent sleepless nights researching grants and charities, but it wasn't enough. One evening, as Emma lay in her hospital bed, weak from another round of chemotherapy, an idea struck her. "What if I sell my paintings?" she whispered to her mother. "People buy art all the time. Maybe they'd buy mine?" At first, her parents hesitated. They wanted her to rest, to focus on getting better. But Emma was determined. She had seen their worried whispers at night, the exhaustion in their eyes. If she could help, even just a little, she had to try. The next Saturday morning, wrapped in her warmest scarf and sitting on a foldable chair, Emma set up her small art stand on a busy city street. A hand-painted sign read, "Art for Hope. Every painting helps save my life." People walked by, some pausing to glance at her paintings. They were beautiful, vibrant landscapes, delicate portraits, and abstract swirls of color that reflected her emotions. A woman in a business suit stopped and smiled. "Did you paint these?" Emma nodded shyly. "They're amazing. I'll take this one." The woman handed her a $20 bill, far more than what Emma had asked. Not everyone was kind. A man scoffed as he passed by. "Looks like a charity stunt," he muttered under his breath. Emma lowered her gaze, pretending not to hear. But then came the moments that made everything worth it. An elderly couple admired her work, a mother bought a painting for her daughter's bedroom, and a group of teenagers pooled their money together to buy a small canvas. Each sale brought her a step closer to her goal. But deep down, she knew it still wasn't enough. She needed a miracle. And that's when it happened. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, and a young man stepped out. He was tall, well-dressed, and familiar. The moment Emma locked eyes with him, she realized who he was: Barron Trump. And in an instant, everything changed. The winter air carried a crisp chill as Emma sat bundled in her oversized jacket, carefully arranging her paintings on the small wooden easel. She had just sold another piece, a soft watercolor of a sunset, to an elderly woman who had pressed an extra $10 bill into her hand with a warm smile. But despite her small successes, she still wasn't even close to the amount she needed for her next round of treatment. She sighed, hugging herself for warmth. Maybe today wasn't her day. Then out of nowhere, a sleek black SUV pulled up across the street. Emma barely noticed as the door opened, and a tall young man stepped out. It wasn't until she heard a whisper from a passing pedestrian that her head snapped up. "That's Barron Trump," someone murmured. Emma's heart skipped a beat. No way. She watched as Barron adjusted his coat, glancing around the bustling street. He seemed to be waiting for someone, but then his gaze landed on something: her stand. His expression shifted from indifference to curiosity. For a moment, he simply stood there, studying the display of colorful paintings. Then, to Emma's shock, he began walking toward her. Emma swallowed hard. gripping the edge of her chair as Barron stopped in front of her stand. Up close, he looked even taller than she had imagined from TV, but his expression wasn't intimidating. It was thoughtful, intrigued. "These are really good," he said, his voice calm but genuine. He picked up a small canvas with a swirling mix of blues and oranges. "Did you paint all of these yourself?" Emma nodded, struggling to find her voice. Yeah, I did." Barron studied the painting in his hands. "This one, it looks like a storm, but there's a break in the clouds. Is that what you were going for?" Emma's eyes widened. Most people just saw pretty colors, but he actually saw what she was trying to express. "Yes, it's supposed to show that no matter how bad things get, there's always hope." Barron's lips curved into a small smile. "That's powerful." Emma hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to ask, Do you like art?" Barron nodded, placing the canvas back down. "Yeah, I used to paint when I was younger. Not as good as this, though." She couldn't help but smile at the thought. "I doubt that." Barron's gaze drifted to the small sign on the table. "Art for hope. Every painting helps save my life." His expression shifted slightly. His eyebrows knitted together as if he was piecing something together. He turned back to Emma. "What do you mean by that?" Emma hesitated. She wasn't sure if she should tell him. She didn't want to seem like she was begging for help, but something in his tone told her he really wanted to know. Taking a deep breath, she said softly, "I have leukemia. My treatments are really expensive, and my family is struggling to keep up with the bills. I love painting, so I thought maybe I could use it to help." Barron was quiet for a moment. His eyes flickered with something. Sympathy, maybe admiration. Then after a pause, he asked, "How much are you selling them for?" Emma shrugged. "Most of them are between $10 and $50, depending on the size." Barron's gaze swept over the paintings again. His fingers lightly tapped against the edge of the table, as if he was deep in thought. Then he said something that made Emma's breath catch. "What if I buy all of them?" Her heart nearly stopped. What? Barron smiled slightly. "I mean it. I want to buy everything here. Name your price." Emma blinked, her mind racing. Was this real? Was he actually serious? Before she could answer, Barron reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and made a quick call. She only caught bits of what he was saying. Something about having the paintings picked up. Something about making sure everything was taken care of. Emma's hands trembled. People around them had started to notice, murmuring amongst themselves, stealing glances at the unexpected scene. She wasn't sure what was more shocking, the fact that Barron Trump was standing in front of her, or the fact that he was about to do something that could change her life forever. And then, in the span of a few heartbeats, everything shifted. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as she processed what Barron Trump had just said. "He wants to buy everything?" Her mind raced. Was this a joke? Was he just being polite? But then she saw the seriousness in his expression. This wasn't a publicity stunt. He meant it. Barron finished his phone call and turned back to Emma. "So what's the total?" Emma stammered, her fingers fumbling as she tried to add up the prices. I don't know. Maybe a few $1,000s?" Barron nodded. Then without hesitation, he pulled out his phone again. "I'll transfer 10 times that." Emma's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" The small crowd that had gathered around them gasped. A few people had already pulled out their phones to record the interaction, and whispers filled the air. "He's really doing this? This is insane. That girl deserves it." Just then, a sleek black car pulled up, and a well-dressed man stepped out. He gave Barron a respectful nod. "Everything's arranged, sir." Barron nodded. "Make sure all the paintings are carefully packed up and delivered." Emma watched in awe as men in suits carefully began collecting her artwork. Her paintings, her lifeline, were being handled like priceless treasures. But Barron wasn't finished. He turned to Emma again. "I don't want to just buy your paintings. I want to help in a bigger way." Emma's lips parted in disbelief. "What do you mean?" Barron's expression softened. "I have connections to some of the best doctors in the country. If you're open to it, I'd like to help get you the best treatment available." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. She had spent so long fighting, so long trying to survive, that she never expected a miracle like this. People in the crowd began clapping. A woman wiped tears from her eyes. "This is the kind of story we need in the world," someone said. Barron Trump just changed that girl's life. News reporters who had caught wind of the event rushed over, microphones in hand. "Barron, can you tell us what made you decide to do this?" Barron glanced at Emma, then back at the cameras. "I was just walking by when I saw her artwork. The emotion in her painting spoke to me, and when I learned her story, I knew I had to help." Emma's mother, who had been standing in shock the entire time, suddenly ran forward, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. She turned to Barron, her voice breaking. "I don't even know how to thank you," Barron smiled. "Just focus on getting her better." The moment exploded on social media. Within hours, hashtags like #Barron Trump kindness and number sign Emma's Miracle was trending worldwide. Emma sat in the back of her mom's car, scrolling through the countless messages flooding her phone. People were offering additional support, donations, and words of encouragement. And in that moment, she realized what had started as just another day selling paintings had turned into the most extraordinary day of her life. Emma could hardly believe what had just happened. As she sat in the car with her mother, her hands trembled while scrolling through her phone. Notifications flooded in at an overwhelming speed, messages from strangers, news outlets tagging her in articles, and thousands of comments on social media praising Barron Trump's act of kindness. By the next morning, every major news channel was covering the story. Headlines flashed across TV screens and social media feeds. Barron Trump stuns crowd with incredible act of kindness. Teen artist battling cancer gets a life-changing surprise from Barron Trump. Heartwarming moment. Barron Trump helps young girl in need. Emma's artwork, once barely selling at her small booth, was now in high demand. People from all over the country messaged her, asking how they could buy her paintings. Some even sent donations directly, wanting to support her treatment. Her GoFundMe page, which had struggled to reach even a few $100s, skyrocketed overnight. She had set a modest goal to cover her next round of chemotherapy, but within 24 hours, the donations had exceeded 10 times that amount. Just when Emma thought the whirlwind of attention couldn't get any crazier, her phone buzzed with a new notification, a personal message from Barron Trump himself. "Hey Emma, I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Hope you're feeling good. My family and I are really happy to have helped, and I can't wait to see more of your incredible artwork." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. She never expected someone like Barron Trump to take a genuine interest in her life beyond the moment they met. Later that day, the Trump family's official social media account posted a statement. "We are incredibly moved by Emma's resilience and talent. Every small act of kindness can change a life, and we are honored to have been part of her journey. Wishing her strength, health, and success in all she does." With the donations pouring in, Emma was able to afford the best medical treatment. She started a new round of therapy at a top hospital, where doctors assured her that she had a strong fighting chance. Her mother, once burdened with the fear of not being able to afford Emma's care, finally breathed a sigh of relief. "For the first time in a long time," she told Emma, "I feel like everything is going to be okay." As weeks passed, Emma's health started showing signs of improvement. The overwhelming support from people worldwide gave her a new sense of hope. She used her growing platform to inspire others, sharing updates on her treatment and new paintings. Many people, especially other kids battling illnesses, reached out to her, saying her story gave them strength. One evening, as she sat by her window painting, she thought back to that moment when Barron Trump had stopped at her stand. Just one act of kindness had set off a chain reaction that changed her life forever. And with a hopeful smile, she realized this was only the beginning. Emma sat in her hospital room, gazing at the dozens of letters and messages that had poured in from around the world. Each note carried words of encouragement, prayers, and admiration for her strength. She never imagined that her struggle, her passion for art, would lead to something so life-changing. One afternoon, as she painted a new piece, a reporter asked her, "What would you say to Barron Trump if you could speak to him again?" Emma smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I'd tell him that his kindness didn't just help me. It reminded the world that one person can make a difference. When I was losing hope, he showed me that there are still good people out there. And because of that, I won't stop fighting." Her words struck a chord with millions who followed her journey. People who had once been strangers now felt deeply connected to her story. Many even shared how it inspired them to help others in their own communities. Emma knew her battle wasn't over, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. She had the support of thousands, the love of her family, and a renewed belief in the power of kindness. As she placed the final stroke on her latest painting, a beautiful sunrise breaking through the dark clouds, she whispered to herself, "There's always hope, even in the darkest moments." And with that, Emma's story became more than just a viral moment. It became a symbol of resilience, generosity, and the life-changing power of one small act of kindness.